Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Welcome, everybody, to I'll Hang Up and Listen. Sabres lose a must-win game, 4-3, to the NHL's worst team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. A lot to unpack, not just with tonight's game, but with the events of the last 48 hours. A lot of headlines in the NHL and a very small fine print line for the Buffalo Sabres last night with the transaction they made with Riley Stillman. But joined by Mr. Connor Hurley, all the way from California. Connor, how are you?
I'm all right. It was actually 5-3. Just a quick,
I'm sorry, yes, 5-3. 5-3.
Quick stat boy correction. Unfortunately, that just somehow, it makes it worse. Like you said, worst team in the league, lowest points in the league. I think they have 44. Now they have 46. Just a massive letdown, especially after those last 3 wins. And with the stretch the Sabres have coming up here, they needed these 2 points in the worst possible way. And Correct. They didn't show up until the third period. And I feel like that's been a trend with this team at certain points this year. They come out, especially at home, for God knows what reason. They don't come out hungry as they normally do on the road. And it came back to bite them. And it was just really, really disappointing.
Yeah, and you know what? This is a team that can't afford to have any like stretches during games where you just completely pissed on your leg. You just can't afford that. Not right now. They have 4 games in hand on the Islanders. Now they're pretty much right neck and neck in terms of games remaining with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, who I think, unless something changed in the last minute and a half, they were winning. They scored to make it 2-1. Just a few minutes ago, so they may have won.
Yeah, they won 3-1.
They did win
3-1.
3-1. Yeah, so you probably got an empty netter. You can't afford every point right now from here. This 4 accounts, and the schedule is going to get so much more difficult after tonight. So these games you have to win. You have to at least get a point out of this. Like you have to find a way to get that game to overtime. And defensively, they were just an absolute mess tonight. Yoki Haru, is just out there doing Yoki Haru things. All jokes aside, he looks almost like the next coming of Rasmus Ristolainen sometimes without the physical ability. He's just his lack of awareness in his own end is so infuriating. Even Owen Power tonight, Owen on Boone Jenner's goal, like take the body there on that first goal from was it Robinson? Is it Robertson or Robinson?
Yeah, Robinson.
That goal right in front when Yoki Haru was left. I want to blame Yoki Haru there too, but where are your forwards giving you any type of support down low? There's nothing. They were all literally standing at the top of the faceoff dot, watching, standing still. Like, what are you doing? Get in there, engage, help your defenseman. And then what are you doing, Owen? Why are you leaving the front of the net, leaving Robinson literally like he's like, okay, like. All right, I guess I'll just steer by myself and
I find myself like screaming at the TV, like watch the front, like watch the front. It's what I said I do during my men's leagues game because these guys have no concept of defensive awareness or covering the back door. They just puck watch. They puck watch. My buddy said that Yoki Haru was responsible for all 5 goals. I don't know about that, but he was abysmal. Even on the empty netter, he let it through him, and then he at least could have made an effort to get on the ice. Because Robinson didn't have an angle at the goal. He put his right leg out and it went right through him.
That's the guy I don't need on my team anymore.
No, yeah, unfortunately not. He was promising to begin with. That the Alex Nylander trade seemed as though that was a pretty good 1-for-1 deal. But right now, he's at least showing that he has no business being an NHL defenseman, at least
None whatsoever.
It's really bad. So, as you said, hopefully Riley Stillman is at least better than that. From every indication I saw from Vancouver Canucks fans when that trade happened yesterday, they were all overjoyed that he was gone.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily sure if that's completely related to the team that he was on and the system that he was in. I've heard that he was better when he was with the Panthers. He was better when he was with the Blackhawks. So you at least hope that's a little bit of an upgrade. And Dahlin obviously needs to be back. Alex Stuck is a massive loss. I mean, Jack Quinn's played well, but the chemistry that top line has is not even comparable without him. Tajan, Tuck, and Skinner just work so well together. So, yeah, obviously that is a massive hurdle that the team has to face right now. Losing two of your three best players in a very critical stretch like this is horrible, and not many teams can recover from it. But you need to beat the Blue Jackets, and they didn't deserve to tonight, and they face the consequences.
Yeah, and you know, I know it's not a small thing, but you got to get Anderson out earlier. Like, you had the puck in the zone with possession twice before you finally got him out.
Yeah,
you got to get him out of net. Like,
even on the power play,
yeah,
there's something to be said about pulling him there. Obviously, the Blue Jackets can just ice the puck and just shoot at the net, but
yeah.
I think the analytics support pulling your goalie when you have that type of advantage, possession in the offensive zone.
And just not to mention, you had them on their heels for 10 minutes straight there. Like, they were just they were just lost. And now you have the power play. You have potentially the best scorer in the league right now after not named Connor McDavid. Everything just seems to be going right for you. And I agree, pull your goalie there. I know you're taking a chance with them, obviously, like you said, being able to ice the puck on the penalty kill. But, you know, the one time I will agree with analytics, not one time I'll agree with this, but one of the times I'll agree with analytics is in that situation. Pull your goaltender and have a two-man advantage there. To me, that's a no-brainer. And that's just where Granato falls short sometimes as a coach, is, you know, over-coaching and not oversimplifying things. Like, it drives me nuts, man. And and we're expected to believe that Riley Stillman is going to be the savior, you know, on our, you know, I don't understand that move at all, especially for a kid like Josh Bloom, who, granted, you know, he is a point per game player in the OHL, but like, the kid's a great penalty killer. And I've always actually know his father. I met his father at development camp, comes from a great family. Kid's got a great head on his shoulders. He's a hard worker. He's all heart. And he's going to be a consistent bottom six, at the very least, bottom six player in the NHL someday. And he's going to be a penalty killer. He's a great 200-foot hockey player. And you traded that type of a prospect for Riley fucking Stillman? That's what you did? Like, it makes no sense. Why trade the prospect? Trade a pick. Trade a pick. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it was confounding for sure. Kevin Adams played with his dad. So I think
it makes no sense.
Yeah, so therefore, like, I think there's probably some type of connection there. Maybe they know more than we do in terms of what type of role he's going to fill or what type of promise he's going to show in our system. It better be something, because like you said, I mean, like, Josh Bloom, he might be our 8th or 9th best forward prospect. So I'm not going to lose sleep over that in a sense, just because, like, it would be a while before he would crack the lineup. Yeah. I am a proponent of bringing depth in, especially on the defensive end, because clearly that is the biggest issue on the team, and it will be for a long time. But like you said, the piece that they got back for is, for the most part, completely unproven, even in the NHL. And at least recently, he hasn't been great. And as you saw tonight, they need a lot of help, especially with Dahlin out. Power, he's been unbelievable this year, defensively, offensively, every aspect of this game. It's going to happen once or twice. He's going to get undressed. Yeah. Boone Jenner is a good player. That was an unbelievable play. That happens 1 out of every 10 times he tries that. And I haven't seen Power do that too many times this season, so I'm not going to be too upset about that. But everybody else, even Samuelson,
take the body there, though.
Yeah, you want him to take the body, but at the end of the day, like Owen Power has been an absolute stud this entire year. I'm gonna let that one slide. But even Samuelson, I saw him going to the corner with the puck a few times, lackadaisical. He's not playing the exact same type of physical, crazy good defensive game we've seen from him. Everything about this team defensively, when you lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets 5-3, leads you to believe that something needs to change. And the big fish is still out there. If we're all upset about Riley Stillman, it could turn 180 degrees if Jacob Chikrin is a Buffalo Sabre in the next 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
So
there has been
at this point, like, you might need to do that. Who knows if Dahlin's injury is worse than they say it is.
There has been some smoke with that. There has been. We've heard it a couple times. And now with one of my prizes at the deadline was Luke Schenn. He's obviously a Toronto Maple Leaf now. Fucking great. Of all teams he could have gone to. Thanks. And it only cost a 3rd round pick. I had people in Vancouver say it's gonna be a premium pick. Like, what 3rd round pick? It wasn't premium. No. I mean, we don't have any 3rd round picks, but I mean, I would have given him I don't know if I would have given him a 2nd, but a 4th and a player.
Yeah.
4th and a young player. 100%. 100%.
Something.
And or Josh Bloom.
Yeah.
I would much rather have fucking Luke Schenn for Josh Bloom than fucking Riley Stillman. It just makes no sense to me. It makes no sense.
Yeah. It's definitely confusing.
I hate to be a conspiracy theorist guy, and this is gonna be very short, but it's been speculated a lot over the last year and a half that at least potentially a minority stake of this hockey team might be up for sale. They brought in that Roth guy from Fidelity Investments to be the COO. Guy has no history, no experience in hockey in any way, shape, or form from the business level. Outside of obviously signing within your own team and your own roster, whether it's here or Rochester, you haven't gone out of your way in free agency to improve the team. You haven't made any big splashes trade-wise outside of, when you were kind of forced to with Reinhart and Eichel. Both turned out great. I look at this as potentially a situation where they have been liquidating some stuff over the last 2 years. Maybe they are. Maybe there is something there. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I just, in the conversations I've had with other people that would be more privy to it than me, it just, if they're not going to spend, and if they're only going to trade, if they're not going to at least attempt here to put this team in a position to win this year, that just tells me, especially with Kim's health, not to make light of that, but Kim's health and the fact that Terry's running both teams right now, that tells me that this team, at least a minority stake of it, could be up for sale. That's just me being a conspiracy theorist. There's been a lot of smoke on that in the past calendar year about this team potentially being for sale. And if they don't spend anything at this deadline, and if they just try and roll with what they have, which to a certain extent I can understand, but there's no reason and I've said this 1,000 times, there's no reason you can't be good you can't stick to the plan, but still not be good now. You have the assets, you have the capital, you have the cap flexibility. There's no reason you can't do both. And if you're willing to trade Josh Bloom for fucking Riley Stillman, who's nothing, he's less than nothing, then there's no reason. I don't know. That's me being a Sabres conspiracy.
No, it's definitely possible. Like, obviously, Pegula's tenure with the Sabres hasn't gone exactly as planned, to say the least. But when you look at the Bloom for Stillman trade, is like nothing as Riley Stillman is, he potentially might play games this season. So while that may not be the most earth-shattering trade, and it's not something that fans or even the team probably thinks is that impactful, technically that is a hockey trade right now. They traded a prospect for an NHL player. So that would lead you to believe at least a little bit of Kevin Adams' mindset. Maybe that's just scratching the surface of what they're going to do the next 2 days. I'm at least hopeful for that, especially after tonight. I think that's a wake-up call that's absolutely necessary. We've been saying it for weeks. Thankfully, they've beaten some really good teams, and they've gotten some great performance from their goaltenders. For instance, the other night from Craig Anderson, that have won them games that they shouldn't have won. But moving forward, in these next 7 games, the Sabres they have gone from playing the worst team in the league to playing by far and away the best team in the league against the Bruins on Thursday night. And then your next 5 games after that are Tampa, Edmonton, the Islanders, Dallas, and the Rangers. Oh, and then the Maple Leafs and the Capitals after that. It's not getting any easier. I could easily see this team without Dahlin and Tuck. Hopefully Dahlin's back at least for the Tampa game on Saturday. I could see that this team losing every single game. The goaltending's not there. The defense is horrible. Without Tuck on that top line, where are you going to get?
They're just not the same line. They're just not the same line.
Yeah, but you're not going to get it consistently from Jack Quinn. Jack Quinn's been played great in 2 games, but he's not going to give you that every single night. We've seen that all season long. It can get really, really scary right now, and this is obviously a very critical time. And you have until Monday at 3:00 to do something impactful to send this team closer to that wild card line, or have us talking about lottery odds in the next 3 weeks, which is also very possible. I could easily see that happening, where Sabres fans are hoping for a miracle to draft Connor Bedard. I don't even want to think about that, but that's the tipping point right now. If you really want to make a push, make a trade. If you don't, you want to sacrifice the future, play for next year, you sit back, and it's going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah. I don't think that you could give this fan base this much hope and then just yank it out from underneath them and just go, we're just gonna sit put and just not tank, but we're okay with losing. I don't think you can't do that right now at this point. You've gotten the fans back. Like,
I mean, that building was almost full out. It was almost full on a Tuesday night against the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, I mean, was the turnout attendance-wise a little disappointing? Yeah. But
Sunday was great, though. Sunday was great.
Yeah, Sunday was fantastic. It's you have the fan base back to an extent. Don't lose them again by just folding right now. Like, and the thing is, these people who comment, don't lose faith right now. We were still, somebody said a point. No, we're 3 points out right now. And from back from the Islanders and Pittsburgh, which is the last wild card spot, they are neck and neck with us in terms of games played. I'm pretty positive. But I don't want to do that to the fan base. I don't want to do that to the players that have worked so hard in the locker room. It's not a good look. It just isn't, and you don't, I would say I would say last week, you don't have to make huge moves to get this team to the playoffs. You really don't. You have to make the right moves. Like I was on Twitter, right? I was literally talking about it right before the Boone Jenner goal, and then even after the Boone Jenner goal. Like, Boone Jenner is a guy who would fit the mold of this team so well. He is a horse, and Columbus is literally all in for the Bedard right now. There is, don't make no mistake about it. If they could trade Line and Gaudreau and get a fantastic return now, they might. You know what I mean? I mean, they wouldn't, because they're losing even with those guys on the team. But Boone Jenner is a guy, captain or not, that would fit the mold of this team so well, and he's on a reasonable contract. And with all of these teams that are right there with them in the basement that got so much worse. Arizona got a lot worse. Anaheim got a lot worse. San Jose got a lot worse. Montreal is bound to get worse. I mean, they're probably going to trade Edmondson, I believe. I mean, there hasn't been much smoke around him, but he's probably gone. Who else? Chicago got a lot worse. Vancouver got a lot worse. I'm sorry, there isn't a single player on that team right now that isn't tradable.
Yeah.
When it comes to Connor Bedard, we're talking like McDavid level prospect here. So for me, there isn't a single. I wouldn't be surprised if every single from here till Friday, if every team in the base right now is treating their team the way Tim Murray treated us when we were trying to tank for McDavid, and rightfully so. That's the type of player he is. So for me, there's no player that should be off limits to me. And I was thinking like, man, I wish Kevin Adams just walk a few suites over and just have that conversation with them. Just have the conversation. What would you want for a guy like Boone Jenner? He signed through 2026, $3.75 million. I know he's your captain. What is the asking price? Just let me know. It can't be, it's not going to be Timo Meier level asking price. But if they want a first and a prospect, I'd absolutely do that in a heartbeat. Why the fuck not?
Yeah, and even their goalie, Korpisalo, who sat out for trade-related reasons.
Yeah.
There's a goalie in your building that probably would have started tonight that didn't, because that team is a fire sale. They want Connor Bedard as much as anybody. As all. Look at John Gibson the past few weeks. He made 65 saves against the Pens the other night, 50 saves the other night.
Which is insane.
It's so that, I mean, you have a lot of opportunity to make this team better. Craig Anderson, he can steal you a game or two every now and then, but he's not going to get this team to the playoffs. UPL doesn't look like his midseason form.
No.
Comrie hasn't played enough to inspire any confidence whatsoever. You need a goalie. You need a defenseman. You need a bottom six forward, potentially a top six forward now with Alex Tuck out for the next month. You got to do something. And if they don't, we'll know everything that we need to about what their mindset is right now. And we can go from there and have a little bit of hope from this season, but the playoffs are absolutely out of the question in that case.
I guess with Cody Merrill here, Granado said in the post-game toss if Dahlin may play Thursday, but may hold him out one more game.
I heard that
you need to get him back in. You need to get him back in.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. Like, if it's an injury that they want to be sure on, like, you don't want to rush it. Like,
no, I know, I agree with that, but like, he needs to get back in the lineup, man, especially after tonight. That's a game where if Dahlin's playing, you probably at least get that game to overtime.
Yeah, for sure.
No,
gosh. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. It's really, really tough. I had a bad feeling about it going in. I feel like the Sabres very consistently played down to their competition. And also, like, I know they haven't showed up for a lot of big emotional games this year, but they also have stolen a lot of games from a lot of really good teams. And that's what they're going to have to do in every single game for the next month.
Yeah.
Philadelphia in like 2 or 3 weeks is the next easy game. It's going to be tough. It's going to get scary. So you got to do something. You got to, whether it's Granado and Adams coming together and agreeing on what this team needs right now in the next 48 hours, something has to give. And I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Rakeen, Alex Tuck did have a walking boot on at the game today with crutches. I'm assuming that's probably an ankle sprain.
I'm thinking high ankle sprain. My dad actually went through the third period the other day trying to find out when it happened.
Yeah.
And with that type of injury, especially in a hockey game, with the boot covering you, sometimes it can be very inconspicuous, whether it's in the corner or just an off chance hit where you don't even notice it. And it can get bad. High ankle sprains take weeks. Sometimes breaking your ankle is better than a high ankle sprain.
Yeah, so, I remember. I forget which goal. It was Leonard. It was Robin Leonard when he hurt his ankle.
Especially for a goalie, but
yeah.
I mean, I'd be surprised to see Tuck before April.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that's going to do whatever he can, though.
For sure,
absolutely. Rehab that ankle and make sure if he can be back, he'll be back. Make no mistake about it with him.
I say Dahlin 2 to 3 more games. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Pagula's ownership group, Terry is incompetent. Nothing ever changes. No guts, no glory, no spending. I don't disagree with you. Take the draft slot, keep building. Sabres going to improve over the next 3 years. UPL not be the key guy, but he can be built around. Little unpack there. This year, I don't care about draft position. I just don't. I've cared way too much about draft position. We've drafted first overall twice, second overall twice, 8th overall twice. over the last 10 years. Like, I don't care about draft position anymore.
And
that's,
the one guy,
that's not a rip. That's not a rip on this comment. It just isn't. But
no, I feel like a lot of fans feel that way. I mean, the one guy that's inspiring the most hope in the organization right now was acquired through trade in Devin Levi.
Yeah.
That's the type of thing sometimes that you need to do to get your team into a position where they need to be. And right now, like if you keep drafting, we had 3 first-round picks last year. I think they have 2 second-rounders next year, maybe 3.
I think they have 3 second-round picks next draft.
One of them has to go.
It's
a second-round pick will get you a legitimate NHL player. Look what the Lightning traded for Tanner Jeannot. I know they traded a lot, but Tanner Jeannot is not that good of a player.
No.
He's going to fit well in that lineup because that's what they need in their bottom 6. But you can get a legitimate bona fide NHL defenseman or middle 6 player for a second-round pick and a prospect. If you want to do more, trade a first-round pick. Nothing has really changed in the past 10 years to inspire any confidence that the Sabres are going to use these draft picks and develop them to the point where they're going to contribute in the next year or 2.
And the thing is, in the last 2 drafts, you've had enough. You essentially, I mean, I don't think in terms of giving up picks at the draft, they've done a lot of that. They moved up in drafts, like when they moved up to draft Paterka. But I mean, they've had 3 drafts, probably damn near 3 drafts worth of picks in the last 2. So, like, the cupboard is full. Even though you trade away Jeff, that really pisses me off too. That Josh Bloom of all prospects that you traded away for fucking Riley Stillman. But I mean, with everything, with all the picks you've made over the last 2 drafts, you had 5 first-round picks. Only one of them is contributing right now at the NHL level. I mean, sure, maybe the chances are low that all 4 will help this team in the long term. Why not just package one of those with one of those second-round picks or even a first-round pick? Make your team better in the now. You still have 3 more centers that you drafted in the first round there to groom and develop. And
Yuri Kulik just got the Player of the Week.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like that guy's going to be in your team next year.
Savoy was great the other night. They're going to be good players in a year
Isaac
or 2.
Rosine, Oslin, and there's no knock against these guys. They're contributing.
They're young. They're 19 years old.
Yeah, but these are coveted pieces around the league.
Yeah,
they're coveted players around the league. You could deal one of those guys away, and you could still have 3 more that are going to contribute to your team within the next 2 to 3 years, or possibly early as next season. Like, where's the hang up here at this point? Where the fuck is the hang up? What are we doing?
I have at least a cautiously optimistic feeling that they will, especially with these 2 injuries. I think that's going to force their hand a little bit. I really, really do believe so. And if they don't, I'll be proven wrong and we'll all be upset. And then we can vent about that. But we have 48 hours, 56 hours until the deadline. I have at least a cautiously optimistic feeling that something's going to get done.
Yeah, I hope you're right. And one name, and I'm going to bring up this comment here in a second. I'll come back to this one. I would love Tom Wilson. Yes, I would love Tom Wilson too. And generally speaking, I would never, ever, ever expect that guy to be traded. But I mean, it feels like
they traded Orlov.
It feels like they've packed it in for this season.
I mean, he had 2 goals against I forget the Flames.
Yeah, he had 2. Yeah, he's had 3 points.
Unbelievable defenseman. So
he's been great. He's been great for the Bruins so far. It seems like they're kind of packing it in.
Yeah, it seems like they're sellers for sure.
If your name isn't Alexander Ovechkin, I mean, are you really off limits on that roster?
No, doesn't seem like it.
I agree. So, I mean, could you imagine tomorrow we wake up and we find out fucking Kevin Adams traded for Tom Wilson?
It would inject every single ounce of energy the entire organization, the team, and the fan base would need to bring that type of guy to a team like this.
He is everything they need and more.
Yeah, But
go ahead.
yeah, they of course need defense more, but to have that type of guy on your team, it would be massive. But we'll see. I don't
That's
know.
a pipe dream. That's a pipe dream. I just wanted to bring up that comment because it was something I saw a couple times today on Twitter, and I'm like, and it's an interesting name. Also interesting, UPL was brought up by Kevin Weeks today on Twitter as a guy who might be on the trade block. Surprising, but not surprising. I will say that. I'm not going to hide from my comments in the past. I've never been a huge UPL advocate. I want him to succeed, but I just look at him as a goaltender that what we see might be what we get. He's still young. He's still developing. But consistency has always been a huge issue for him. And in big moments, he hasn't really shown up. So I don't know. I think there could be some smoke behind that. I mean, why would you tweet out of all the names on that list? UPL stood out to me the most.
For sure. I mean, I'm surprised by that, to be honest, but at the same time, like, as confident as they probably are in Levi, one of them's, I mean, obviously Levi's not going, so he would be the odd man out. Like, he's not going to be your backup. I mean, theoretically he could be, but Comrie could be. Who knows, with a little bit more experience. And then maybe you could sign Portillo. You have him too. So
yeah, I mean,
but
question mark for sure.
With the amount of promise in his best moments that Luukkonen has shown this season, you could get something of value back. You absolutely could, especially
like Vancouver,
packaging it with a second-round pick.
A team like Vancouver, a team like Chicago, teams like Arizona. I mean, Arizona, I think they're pretty happy with what they have. But
UPL in a second, you could get Besser.
Yeah.
UPL in a first, you could get JT Miller. Like you could do something.
And hopefully Vancouver is willing to eat some of that salary.
Yeah. So that's the type of thing you might be willing to sacrifice to bring back something of consequence right now. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
And you got to remember too, they picked a goaltender to start the second round. Not start the second round. Their first pick of the second round last year, Topias Leinonen. You know, I know he was very big goaltender and he was considered to be a project goalie, but he is in the system too.
Sure.
I mean, if they're willing, if they think UPL could get them potentially a, you know, what Comrie was supposed to be or still is, or maybe, I don't know, maybe management is confident in running with Comrie and Anderson. I don't know. I really don't. Maybe they feel that defensively they're not strong enough and they want to go all out offense. Maybe they just deal UPL for something to help them in their top six, especially with Tuck being out. Or, I mean, I don't know. While his numbers don't scream out, you know, franchise goaltender, you know, when you look at him at face value, as you said, we've all seen it. There have been a lot of games this season where he has stood on his head, where he has won games for this team. I just, you know, at the end of the day, it's the wins that count. And, you know, he has a winning record. He's been a big reason why this team's in the position that it is in. Again, but does it surprise me he was in that list? No, but it doesn't. No, yes, it did surprise me, but it also doesn't surprise me because I could totally see that being a move and then moving on from him just because they have so much potential coming up through the pipeline.
Yeah.
So, or maybe Adams has had good conversations with Portillo's agent in terms of, you know, he expects him to sign. I don't know. We'll see. You know, that just, again, with him sitting out tonight, being a healthy scratch, and then Comrie being the guy to back up, and then coincidentally being on the Kevin Weeks list. I don't know, man. It's for me, that was a head scratcher.
For sure. It's interesting to say the least.
Tell me how you're making a playoff push also beyond this year and still debating who the goalie is.
They're the third highest scoring team in the league.
Yes, that's that right there. However, even with being the third highest scoring team in the league, you need more help from your bottom three lines. You know, it's not that, you know, Cousins isn't doing his job or Olofsson isn't doing their job, but when the Skinner, Tuck, Thompson line isn't rolling, you know, it's 90% more difficult for this team to win. It's just this, if you look up and down every time they've won this year, I mean, I can almost guarantee you, that line contributed to at least, his 3 or 4 points on the night.
Yeah,
it's
probably every single win. Honestly.
Every single one. Let's be real. Yeah. Last time they beat Columbus, Thompson had 5 goals.
4 in the first period.
I don't want to take away. We finally have something to root for, but I don't know. A second and maybe a Bloom trade for a solid D-man and get some playoff experience would have been amazing. Agreed. It would have been amazing. If Bloom and a second would have went to Vancouver for, a Besser, a guy who's going to come in and help now, a better version of Olofsson. That would have been nice. So, talk around, before we get out of here, talk about some of the trades that did go down. Obviously, earlier today, Patrick Kane made official is a New York Ranger. Chicago had almost no leverage. I forget some of the names of the players that went back. I know Cooper, Zen or something.
Literally just 2 picks.
Yeah.
No
additional
players.
Second, that could be a first if
and a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, it was nothing. Chicago had no leverage because Kane, had a league wide, hissy fit about them going to get Tarasenko before they went.
And he had a full no movement clause as well. So it's the only team you want to go to, and the Rangers knew that, and they had, like you said, all the leverage.
It was Taylor Hall 2.0.
I personally believe they're going to put him with Panarin, and he is going to go off.
Yeah.
You saw what he played in the last 4 games. He's been finally motivated. He still has the skill. He still has the playmaking. That team is loaded now. I think aside from the Bruins and probably the Hurricanes, they're the biggest threat to come out of the East. You have arguably the best goalie in the league. Their defense is amazing. Up and down the lineup, they are a stacked roster. And now you have Patrick Kane, who is a proven playoff performer. It's the best deal that they could have made, and they finally did it. So kudos to them.
Yeah. One comment here from Cricket Whistle 7. Why do you guys think this team keeps reverting to overpassing the puck, overhandling? Does someone need to get benched? I'll hang up and listen. I mean, they were. I mean, you saw Casey. Perfect example. That one play on Casey. He had a perfect opportunity to shoot the puck. He tried to pass it over. It was kind of a short ice 2-on-1. Defenseman, I don't know who it was. Defenseman got his stick down, blocked the shot. Casey had another opportunity to shoot the puck or, tried to carry it through. But right there, an example where you're overpassing and you need to shoot pucks and get pucks on net. And you miss out on a golden scoring opportunity there because you overhandle, overpass. I agree to an extent. You saw a lot of that tonight, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Middlestat's the biggest culprit of that. I think he has a pass-first mentality, and the coaching staff has been trying to drill it into his head, like shoot, shoot, shoot. Like, for the most part, I think he has a pretty solid NHL shot. He scored some pretty good goals this year. They did have 41 shots on goal tonight, and a lot of shots missed over the net, posts. Yeah. I mean, Peterka's with 3 minutes left on the power play, rang off the post. That should have been in. He played a pretty good game, I thought. But yeah, I mean, they do try to be a little bit too pretty sometimes, which is unfortunate given the lack of defensive awareness and the liability that 75% of the back end is. You'd like for them to just fire it on net. But at the same time, like, they've had a lot of really good goals this season off great passing plays. So it's a tough balance. But yeah, I mean, 41 shots, you can't nitpick too much of that.
No. And that's the thing. It's not, again, tonight wasn't a night where you felt like you were outplayed or you deserved to lose. And personally, I think they deserved to win. But you had a stretch there in the second period where you like pissed down your leg and they took advantage of you. They did. It's plain and simple. Defensively, you were not good enough tonight. I'm not even willing to really put any of that on Anderson. I think we one of those 4 I'd like for him to have back, but I mean, not much you can do when you're literally left alone. With you're fucking dick in your hand in front of the net. Other deals, I'd say probably the second biggest deal of the day, even though we all knew where Patrick Kane was going, was Matthias Ekholm leaving, Nashville for I don't know how many years, heading to the Oilers. for Tyson Barrie, Reed Schaefer, a first-round pick in 2023, and a fourth-round pick. Honestly, that is a huge haul for Nashville. I've always loved Matthias Ekholm. He's a steady, even though he's a left-handed shot, a steady stay-at-home guy who just plays a really heavy game and just is really, honestly, one of the better defensemen in the league in his own end.
Yeah.
So that is an absolute steal for Nashville for the return on him. And, Connor McDavid finally gets his stay-at-home defenseman that, he's probably wanted to see in Edmonton for the past couple of years. Tyson Barrie offensively is a good hockey player, but defensively he's pretty terrible. So
yeah,
I think
that's exactly what they needed.
Yeah.
I think that's at least a little bit of a nod to everything that's left the Western Conference and gone to the Eastern Conference, and Edmonton realizing like, oh, we have an actual opportunity here. Like the Avs haven't been healthy all season. They might get healthy right before the playoffs would be bad news for them.
Yeah.
But I think those are the only, maybe the Stars, but those three teams, in my opinion, are the only possible teams that have a chance to come out of the West. I mean, potentially the Kings, if they get some goaltending and make a run, they have a pretty good roster. But Edmonton getting a probably top 10, top 15 defenseman to come to that roster is massive for them.
Yeah. This one surprised me too. The Maple Leafs traded defenseman Rasmus Sandin and to the Washington Capitals for a first-round pick and Eric Gustafsson. It's a pretty good return.
Yeah, Gustafsson's been good this year.
Yes, he's been very good. I thought they would have traded Justin Hall before they went Sandin, but I mean, whichever. I mean, they got Luke Shen later on in the day. So they also traded away Pierre Engvall to the Islanders for a third-round pick. Shout out Dewey Croc's Cats and the 2 goalies, 1 Mike Chat. Seemed pretty happy about that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of deals were made today. Like I said, Luke Shen is a Maple Leaf. Marcus Johansson, who has been an absolute suitcase in the NHL, is going back to Minnesota. Yeah, and then Jesse. I think the day kind of started off with just the Jesse Puljujärvi trade to the Carolina Hurricanes for the rights to Patrick Puistola, who plays in Liga, over in the one of the Swedish leagues, I believe, or Finnish leagues. But just a day chock full of action, exciting to say the least, but nothing to report on for the Buffalo Sabres. All the big names outside of Chychrun are gone. I'd say the top 2 names on the list now at this point are obviously Chychrun and Besser. We'll see what happens. Hopefully Kevin Adams has something up his sleeve that maybe a name that we have seen out there or a name we haven't seen out there. I don't know. Hopefully we'll see. Last few comments here before we get out. Just from earlier, Mauricio went on a rate. I mean, Mauricio was in this chat before we went on live. He just loves it. Once again, I repeat, reliable goaltending, poor defensive coverage by forwards, especially Thompson's line. Thompson, Skinner, and Quinn were a liability in the defensive zone. Granato reach your players to defend. Too many Danish pastry turnovers, poor puck management. He has something against Danish pastries. Millsat needs to shoot, lost all confidence. We mentioned that earlier. Olsen Millsat, first-round pick for Demko and Brock Lesnar. I almost said it.
That'll bring some much-needed toughness.
The B's not even close to the L, so I feel like that was.
If you bring Brock Lesnar on this team,
put him on skates.
That's the
just
muscle.
have him destroy people out there.
That's the muscle that this team needs.
Could you imagine especially if he knows how to skate, put Brock Lesnar in front of the net in the defensive zone and dare somebody?
Is he Canadian?
He is. He is a Canadian.
Guarantee he knows how to skate. Guarantee it.
You put that guy on skates in front of your own net and just fucking dare somebody to come towards your goaltender.
Not a bad idea,
not Brock Lesnar.
Not a bad idea.
No, not at all. But anyways, always appreciate you whenever you're in the chat, Mauricio. I know I showed all your comments. Make sure you got you in there. But and then Cody Morrell. I don't want to take away. We finally have something to root for, but I don't know a second. We already read that one. But with that being said, I got nothing left here. Hurls. Any final thoughts?
Tough one. Another name I saw today was Nick Schmaltz from the Coyotes. Another example of a team that might just be willing to give anything away. I think if you bring a guy that I think he had a higher points percentage this season than Timo Meier on a very bad team.
Yep.
That's another name that you would
I like
at
that.
least
I like
have to call on. Something like that. I think, especially with Tuck out, I think it's going to be on the longer side of week to week than we think.
I mean, they knew that right away too.
I'd be very surprised if he's in the lineup before April. So any type of guy like that, any guy for your middle six, and some type of defense, whether it's defense or goaltending. This team,
it just can't be Riley Stillman.
They need something, because losing to the Blue Jackets, you're not going to survive if you don't score more than 3 goals in any single game, and especially with this stretch coming up. So
they should just wear the goat head jersey, honestly, the rest of the year.
Yeah, gosh, bring out the
lost one time in it, and every single time they've played in that jersey, they've scored 6 goals.
Yep, 7 the other day. So
with that being said, I got nothing left. This team's got to Cody's point, you got to need 3 out of the next 4 possible points. Couldn't agree with you more, or maybe even 3 out of the next.
It'd be tough,
games. But schedule gets very difficult, and the next 48 hours should be very, very telling. Actually, no, 72 hours, right? Because
it's 3 p.m. on Friday, so basically 67
hours. You're good at math. I'm not. So, yes, next 67 hours are pretty crucial. I do expect another trade to happen. It's just to what level? Are we looking at another Riley Stillman? Like, I don't need this to be a Bob Corkum type deadline.
It'll be bigger.
Know what I mean by that.
It'll be bigger. It'll be bigger than Riley Stillman. I can almost guarantee so.
But this has been brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case over on George Urban Boulevard. Don't waste, don't haste. Go buy a case on all your Sabres game nights. And let's go Sabres.